I want to tell you a story that is going to feel uncomfortably familiar to some of you. A story about ambition, betrayal, and the kind of cruelty that hides behind a smile. A story about what happens when someone decides that your success is a threat to them, and what they are willing to do about it. And most importantly, a story about what the universe does when it witnesses that kind of deliberate destruction. This is a story about a woman we will call Sarah, and the woman who tried to erase her. Sarah had worked for the same company for 6 years. 6 years of early mornings and late nights. 6 years of saying yes when she wanted to say no. 6 years of going above and beyond, of taking on extra projects, of mentoring newer employees, of building relationships across departments. She was not just good at her job. She was exceptional, and she knew it. Not in an arrogant way, in the quiet, steady way of someone who has put in the work and can see the results. She was on the path to a promotion she had been working toward for 2 years. Her manager had hinted at it. Her performance reviews were flawless. The timing felt right. And then a new woman joined the team. Her name was Diana. And from the moment Diana arrived, something felt off. Diana was charming in the way that people who have learned to weaponize charm are charming. She was warm with the people who mattered, and cold with the people who did not. She asked questions that seemed like curiosity, but were actually intelligence gathering. She complimented Sarah in public and studied her in private. Sarah noticed, but she told herself she was being paranoid. She told herself that not everyone who is ambitious is a threat. She extended kindness. She shared information. She included Diana in meetings she did not have to include her in. She was, in short, exactly the kind of colleague she would have wanted for herself. And Diana used every single bit of it. It started small. A comment here, a suggestion there. Diana began positioning herself as the expert on projects Sarah had built from the ground up. She started taking credit for ideas in meetings, not overtly, not in a way that could be easily called out, but in the subtle, deniable way that skilled manipulators operate. As we discussed, she would say, referring to a conversation that had never happened. Building on what I mentioned last week, she would say, about a concept Sarah had introduced months before Diana arrived. Sarah raised it once, carefully, professionally, in private. Diana looked at her with wide, innocent eyes and said she had no idea what Sarah was talking about, that she had always given credit where it was due, that she was surprised Sarah felt that way. And then she smiled. That smile. Sarah would think about that smile for a long time afterward, because what happened next was not small. What happened next was calculated, deliberate, and devastating. Diana went to the senior leadership team with a story about Sarah, about how Sarah had been difficult to work with, about how Sarah had been resistant to new ideas, about how Sarah had made inappropriate comments about a client, about how Sarah had taken credit for Diana's work. Every single thing Diana accused Sarah of was something Diana herself had done. But Diana got there first. And in the world of office politics, the person who gets there first has an enormous advantage. Sarah was called into a meeting. She was blindsided. She had no idea what was coming. And sitting across from her manager and 2 members of HR, listening to accusations she could not believe were being leveled at her, she felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. She defended herself. Of course she did. But the damage was already done. The promotion was quietly shelved. The projects she had been leading were reassigned. Her relationships with senior leadership, relationships she had spent years building, were suddenly strained. She could feel the shift in the room every time she walked in. The sideways glances, the conversations that stopped when she approached. She was not fired. That would have been too obvious. Instead, she was sidelined. Slowly, methodically, invisibly, pushed to the margins of a company she had helped build. and Diana moved into the space Sarah had occupied, wearing Sarah's reputation like a borrowed coat. Sarah left, not because she gave up, but because she recognized that staying in a poisoned environment was costing her more than leaving. She took a job at a smaller company, at a lower salary, and she started over. And she was devastated, not just professionally, personally, because she had trusted Diana. She had been kind to Diana. She had opened doors for Diana, and Diana had walked through those doors and then locked them behind her. For months, Sarah carried the weight of what had happened. The anger, the grief, the disbelief, the constant replaying of every interaction, looking for the moment she should have seen it coming. The shame of feeling like she had been naive. The fear that maybe, somehow, some of what Diana had said about her was true, even though she knew it was not. She did not plot revenge. She did not reach out to former colleagues to tell her side of the story. She did not try to expose Diana. She focused on herself, on rebuilding, on healing, on becoming again the person she had been before someone else's cruelty had made her doubt herself, and the universe watched all of it. Here is what happened to Diana. Diana got the promotion. She moved into the role that had been meant for Sarah. She had the title, the salary, the office. From the outside, it looked like she had won. But Diana had built her position on a foundation of lies. And foundations like that do not hold. The projects she had taken credit for, she now had to deliver on them. Without Sarah's expertise, without the institutional knowledge Sarah had spent years accumulating, without the genuine relationships Sarah had built with clients and colleagues who now, slowly, began to see Diana for what she was. Because here is the thing about people who rise by tearing others down. They do not actually have the skills to stay up. They got there through manipulation, not merit. And merit is what the job eventually demands. Diana began to struggle. She made decisions that did not work out. She blamed her team. She tried to manipulate her way out of accountability the same way she had manipulated her way into power. But the people around her were watching now. They had seen what she had done to Sarah, and they were not going to be next. One by one, the relationships Diana had built on performance began to crack. The senior leaders who had believed her story about Sarah started to question their judgment. The colleagues who had stayed quiet when Sarah was pushed out started to speak up. And the client Diana had accused Sarah of offending, that client, it turned out, had their own account of what had actually happened. An account that matched Sarah's version exactly. Within 18 months of Sarah's departure, Diana was gone. Not quietly sidelined the way Sarah had been. Gone. Publicly. With an investigation. With a reputation in the industry that made it very difficult to find comparable work. And Sarah? Sarah had spent those 18 months rebuilding. She had taken the smaller job and turned it into something bigger. She had brought her full expertise, her genuine relationships, and her hard-won wisdom to a company that actually valued her. She had been promoted twice. She had built a team that respected her. She had found her footing again. She heard about what happened to Diana through a former colleague. She did not feel the surge of triumph she had expected. She felt something quieter, something more like relief. Like a weight she had not realized she was still carrying had finally been set down. Because the universe had seen. It had always seen. It had simply been working on its own timeline, not hers. There are Dianas in every industry, in every office, in every field. People who have decided that the fastest way to the top is to remove the people above them, rather than to do the work of climbing. People who mistake cruelty for strategy and manipulation for intelligence. People who look at someone else's success and see a threat rather than an inspiration. And there are Sarahs, people who are doing the work, building real things, forming genuine connections, operating with integrity, even when it would be easier not to. People who get hurt by the Dianas of the world and have to make a choice. Become like them or become better than them. The Sarahs always win. Not always immediately, not always visibly, but always. Because what Diana could never take from Sarah, what no one can ever take from anyone, is the actual substance of who they are. The knowledge, the relationships built on truth, the reputation earned through real work, the character forged through difficulty. Those things cannot be stolen. They can be temporarily obscured, but they cannot be destroyed. And the things Diana built on lies, the title, the position, the borrowed reputation, those could not last. Because nothing built on a false foundation can stand indefinitely. The universe does not allow it. If you are in the middle of your own version of this story right now, if someone is trying to take what you have built, if someone is using your kindness against you, if someone is rewriting your story to serve their own, hear this: do not become them. Do not let their cruelty teach you cruelty. Do not let their dishonesty tempt you into dishonesty. Do not let their willingness to destroy make you willing to destroy. Keep building. Keep doing the work. Keep being the person you are proud to be. The universe is watching, and it is keeping score. And when the time is right, in its own perfect, unhurried, absolutely certain way, it will deliver exactly what was earned by both of you.